Hey, what's up? This is Alan Robert from Life of Agony, and you're watching Rockstation.
So, this is the 25th anniversary for the Rivers Run Red album.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah.
I lose track.
Do you feel this 25 years, is it that far for you to remember?
You know,
back?
sometimes it feels like a very long time, and sometimes if I remember very vivid memories of the very beginning shows like it was yesterday. And we talk about those times a lot recently, and it's a lot of fun to reminisce about that stuff.
It's also this tour has bring up memories from that time, from the beginning.
Very much, very similar vibe and intensity within the band, and just everyone's having a lot of fun, like the old days, and the shows have been packed like back then, and it's been a great tour so far.
Was it also a bit nostalgic, feeling like to play Billy along with the tour?
I mean, we started out even before Life of Agony was signed, helping out Biohazard, friends with them, drawing their T-shirts, helping them lift equipment and stuff, even before they were signed. So we go back a long time.
And are you keep up with the back then New York hardcore scene with other band members and with that scene?
Well, back then there was a scene. I don't know if there is a scene anymore. There's really not a lot of places to play anymore.
Yep.
There used to be a lot of little clubs to play. Now it's either really big places or more obscure places that really aren't set up for, you know, this type of music, sound-wise. But back then there was lots of places to play and lots of bands popping up. And I remember we would go to the local Brooklyn club, which was L'Amour's, even without knowing who was going to play. That was the place to be on the weekend, and just see all these cool bands coming through and find out about new bands, and go, you know, seek out their albums. There was no internet, you know, so you physically had to see the band and then either buy their record from them or go to the local vinyl shop or cassette place. Yeah, it was a different time, you know, a much different time, a much more exciting time for music, I think, in the 90s. And you felt like you were part of something. There was a community for sure.
Yeah. Whose were those bands who you or you found as a teenager, or from that scene, who was remarkable for you?
Well, definitely some West Coast bands that we wouldn't normally see came through. Like there was like a punk hardcore band called Excel that I remember seeing for the first time open up for a metal band at L'Amour's, and they just blew us away, and we bought their stuff. But you know, we saw firsthand, you know, fantastic New York hardcore bands coming up, like Agnostic Front, Sick of It All, Madball, Rest in Pieces, you know, Carnivore was doing negative nights even after they weren't playing and they weren't that active anymore. And then eventually Repulsion, which turned into Typo Negative. Biohazard, you know, watching them rise in Brooklyn from an unsigned band to a signed band. You know, these were like magic moments for us as kids, because it felt like, you know, like in Goodfellas, when your friend's getting made, you know, it's like all of a sudden they go from being, you know, making demos to an album. Wow, that's a big deal. And it inspired us to do it too, and to come up in that scene. Believe it or not, in 30 years we never played with Sick of It All, and they're from New York too. So when we get back home after this run, we're doing 2 special shows with Sick of It All for the first time. So those would be great. But we would see bands like that all the time. Even White Zombie, you know, before Rob Zombie went solo, you know, we would see White Zombie with Biohazard at L'Amour's all the time. Cro-Mags.
Yeah.
Who else? So many just came through. Even Faith No More before they exploded.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Mike Patton play with Faith No More at L'Amour's, and he came out with a raincoat and goggles, and it was great. It was awesome. You know, we haven't made a record in 12 years before the last one last year, but we already started writing for the next record, and it's going great. And we have about half the record already written, and we just lined up a producer, and just really excited about where the material's going and the sound of the band. And as you know, we got a new drummer, Veronica Bellino, and she just adds a whole different element to the sound. And I'm really excited. We start tracking in the beginning of next year.
If I know well, you are working in your public life as a comic drawer, or artist?
Well, I even before music, I was an artist.
Yep.
And I went to school to become an artist, and that was 1993. I graduated that school, and that was the same year River Runs Red came out.
Yeah.
And so I had to make a choice whether to pursue being an artist or see where the music took me. And 20 years later, here we are. But I never really forgot about it, and I always wanted to put out my own comic book series, which I ended up doing about 8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I put out several books since then. A bunch of horror comic book series called Wire Hangers. One's called Crawl to Me. Another one is called Killogy. And then after that, I started drawing a coloring book series.
Yeah.
Called The Beauty of Horror. And there's several books. The fourth one's coming out this Halloween.
How came the idea of a coloring book?
My wife. My wife and daughter were coloring one day. I was coming home from rehearsal, and they were sitting at the table coloring in these flowers and these beautiful books. Actually, they started to make adult coloring books, which were very intricate and beautiful, really thick paper, not the coloring books I grew up on, which were like newsprint and falling apart. And they had these elaborate sets of colored pencils and gel pens and all kinds of stuff. And they asked me to join in, and I didn't want to color any flowers or animals. And so my wife said, you should draw something scary that you would like. So that I started doing that. And it actually became a way bigger seller than all my comic books. So I was blessed in that way, and it's been a lot of fun putting them out. So it's Beauty of Horror 1, 2, and 3, and then there's a Christmas book, kind of like a nightmare Christmas book, coming out in just a few days on Halloween.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.